YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. And this is the first video of this new series I'm doing here. We're going back to old NFL draft classes. And in my opinion, I'm giving you the best player in each round. We'll also talk about, players I strongly considered. And at the very end of these videos, I'll go through and look at each pick of the draft quickly and see what stands out. So we're starting with 2017, not doing 2018. I think it's too soon for that. So 2017. And then over the next few days, we'll keep going through 2016, 2015, so on. So, best player, in my opinion, from each round from the 2017 NFL draft. Some interesting ones, some battles, tough to decide. If you don't subscribe to our channel, I would recommend you do so. We have daily sports videos every single day, bringing you a video. We specialize in the NFL, predicting the upcoming season, and then we have full coverage in season. I can't wait. 2017. Let's take a look at the first round. I mean, pretty obvious who it is. It's Patrick Mahomes, who went 10th overall. And, those three quarterbacks, pretty good quarterback group there. Trubisky was the first one to come off, and then we had Mahomes and Watson. I actually figured it'd be the opposite, but they're all pretty close in grade, where it wasn't super surprising. But Mahomes being, we only seen him play one season, so I guess this is pretty tough. But I think we've seen enough there for that to be, well worth the trade up, well worth the pick, and that's the quarterback of the future, no matter what, pretty much going forward here. So I think that was the obvious choice there. In the first round of 2017, Patrick Mahomes being the best player. I mean, I can sit here and name all the good picks. We kind of can do that at the end of the video. Kind of defeats the purpose right here. But, I mean, obviously the first pick, Myles Garrett, Deshaun Watson, guys like that, Jamal Adams, Christian McCaffrey. Guys were somewhat considered here, but, I mean, I thought it was pretty clear. My favorite part of this video is pretty much everything other than round one. The more interesting things we forget about, who went where. That's what we're going to get into here. So round two, which team and which player stands out here? It's Juju Smith-Schuster, and it was a toss-up. Juju Smith-Schuster, 62nd overall, or Joe Mixon to the Bengals. And it was a toss-up. I had to pick one here, and really I had to come up with a tiebreaker. Like kind of which one, because we're going off best player, and since they're pretty even, I think in player, like how they play and their skill. My tiebreaker was kind of what was the better pick, and then since Juju Smith-Schuster was a safer pick, even though Mixon's been perfectly fine off the field, I'm not concerned. That's the only thing I can think of to come up with a tiebreaker there. So, I mean, Joe Mixon's making the Bengals so much better. His ability to run the ball pretty much anywhere, in between, outside the tackles, and then catch the ball in the backfield. But Juju Smith-Schuster, I went with him here, and it's even bigger that they got him and they were able to move on from Antonio Brown, because imagine if they didn't have Juju Smith-Schuster here. It'd be pretty wild. So, and what he's become, and, leading up to that draft, the couple years before, he was supposed to be that top receiver, and he kind of, his stock, I guess, somewhat declined a little bit. So that was interesting. So great pick, obviously 62nd overall. Juju Smith-Schuster and the Steelers win round two of 2017 so far. Round three, pretty good round three. But Alvin Kamara, if you remember, he was my guy of that draft. I had him 16th overall, and the Saints get him in the third round, 67th overall. I was pumped for them at the time about the pick, and still pumped. He's their feature back going forward, and that is the pick of the third round. I didn't really – there's two other ones that are very close, but it's not one I really had to think about too much, and those players are Kareem Hunt, of course. Maybe if there was no off-the-field issue, maybe it'd be Kareem Hunt, and there would actually be a battle. And Kenny Golladay, who I love, and I loved at the time too. 2017 is my favorite draft class. If you remember our videos there, I really like these sleepers, especially in the third round here. I liked all three of these guys. Kenny Golladay too, from NIU. He's going to be something else. He already is something else, and he's going to be a top receiver in the NFL one day. And that was a heck of a third-round pick. But I want Alvin Kamara. And again, at the end of the video, we'll go through and talk about some other good players or bad picks that I did not mention yet. So we'll get there. Round four, best player from round four, Eddie Jackson from the Bears. Bears took him 112 overall, and this was interesting because the decision was between Eddie Jackson and another Chicago Bear running back, Tariq Cohen, and then another running back, Marlon Mack, who was another one of my sleepers. But I went with Eddie Jackson. For him to be able to play like a Pro Bowler, I think I have to go him. I didn't really have to think too much about it, but there is one thing in the back of my mind is we kind of only seen one really good year from Eddie Jackson. So can we already determine that he's the best player from this round with some other good players? I'd say so. A little tough, but I'd say so. So 112 overall. Very good fourth round for the Bears there, getting 2 players, and we'll kind of backtrack and look at each round here. Like I said, the 5th round, a really good 5th round, let me say. And I went with George Kittle, and George Kittle is just an intriguing one because he was kind of known as one of the better, maybe the best blocking tight end of that draft class, the way I looked at it. And what he was able to do, and the transformation he was able to make to be a top tier receiving threat tight end. He got more and more in shape too. Very impressive. And it's just, that's why, if you watched our videos during this last draft, I refer to those blocking tight ends as sneaky because they already know how to block. You don't need to coach that. It's kind of just get them in there, get them in your program to get them better shape, more athletic, and learn offenses, how to read defenses, and be a receiving threat. So those guys are sneaky, and George Kittle is the prime example of that. He went 146 overall, and you may think it was the obvious choice, but there was a very, very close second here in Desmond King, who was at the time, one of my steals of the draft. I think everybody, I actually had a late first round grade on him. They get him down here, and he's been excellent for the Chargers. Other players I really like in that 5th round there was Matt Milano from the Bills and Aaron Jones of the Packers. So really good picks there, but can they compete with the talent of George Kittle and the Niners? Round 6, a little disappointing round 6, but you can't expect too much. Xavier Woods from the Cowboys is the best player from that draft, so nothing, crazy here, but he's been a very solid player. He can play in the slot, can play safety, can play corner. 191 overall, that's a darn good pick. There really wasn't much to choose from, so Woods really was the only option. We'll see what else was in there in a little bit. And the 7th round was pretty much the same thing. We get a really good player here for a 7th round pick, but it was pretty much the same thing in terms of no other options. And that's Chris Carson, who was another one of my sleepers at the time, out of Oklahoma State. 249, and he is the Seahawks feature back and had a hell of a year last year. 249 overall for Seattle Seahawks in the 7th round. Very impressive. So what I can't wait to see as I do more and more of these videos is see if the same team pops up twice. We didn't see that yet, but we mentioned a couple teams for maybe multiple picks, but I want to see a team pop up twice here. Let's take a look at the 2017 NFL Draft. See if anything stands out. So here's the first round. We're going to just run through it. Obviously, Garrett was a great pick. Solomon Thomas hasn't really worked out yet. Fournette needs to stay on the field. Corey Davis hasn't really lived up to the 5th pick quite yet, but can play. Like I said, Jamal Adams is a good pick. Mike Williams starting to pick it up. McCaffrey's a great pick. Ross hasn't lived it up yet. Lattimore's been very solid. And then you're looking at Watson, Son Reddick. I didn't like the position change there. I had him as a outside linebacker, pass rusher. They moved him to the inside. Derek Barnett, I love. I love Derek Barnett. He was a top 5 player on my board in this draft class. He wasn't healthy last year. Can't wait to watch him play this year. Malik Hooker is another really good player that needs to stay healthy. Marlon Humphrey's really figuring it out there. He's playing really good at the corner position. Jonathan Allen. These are all really good picks here. Garrett Bowles starting to figure it out. Jared Davis, maybe right away, was a little, slow to figure it out, but he's picking it up. Charles Harris, I'm expecting a breakout season this year. We'll see if he figures it out there. And we see some good picks here. Engram's a good pick. Pepper's no longer with the Browns. McKinley, I think, will break out this year. Tre'Davious White's been very solid for the Bills. Taco Charlton. Definitely another player that, would like to see more of. A little unfortunate so far, TJ Watt. I wasn't in love with that pick, and now I like it. He's been good. Foster, unfortunate off the field in injury stuff. And Ramchek's been excellent. To kind of just really run through the rest of these so we don't spend all day on it. Other picks here, I mentioned it was between Juju Smith-Schuster and Joe Mixon. And other picks that were really good to me. Cunningham's very solid. Budda Baker's solid. They can't compete with the guys that I talked about, the first 2 I talked about, though. I like Awuzie. Looking through, Dalvin Cook's just got to stay healthy, but he's very solid. Marcus Williams, I like him. I was high on Sidney Jones. Hopefully he stays healthy and he continue to improve. So those were definitely the top players of round 2. Round 3 from 2017. See if there's any that stand out here. We talked about the top 3 players I really liked. I like Witherspoon a lot. I was very high on him for the Niners. I actually had a late first round grade on him. I really liked him, and he's really playing well recently. Jonnu Smith's a weapon for Tennessee. Any other picks that stand out here? I think Foreman will start to get going after that injury a couple years ago. Josh Johnson has been excellent. Jordan Lewis has been excellent. Maybe it's time for Tim Williams to break out. We'll see. Round four, we talked about the two Bears players, and we talked about Marlon Mack. I really thought that was really it. D.D. Westbrook could be solid. Tedrick Thompson's been impressive. Not much else from round four here. The Texans could need. They've been playing Julian Davenport. They could use him to step up. They need him to step up. Ben Gideon actually starts for the Vikings, so there's a couple solid picks there. And then we got round five. Round five I talked about was really good too, other than the choice we made there. George Kittle, Desmond King, Matt Milano, Aaron Jones. So that's the ones I mentioned. Any other ones stand out? There's Matt Milano there. We got Desmond King, went 151 overall. Not too much else after the one. There's Aaron Jones, 182 overall. Oh, Jayon Brown's been very good for Tennessee. Inside linebacker that really gets after the quarterback. That's another really good pick there. Nathan Peterman, 171. Nate Harrison's been okay. And then round six, this is the one we talked about where, you don't expect much from round six, but Xavier Woods was my pick. And you can see, there's not much else. You can see what I was talking about here. Chuck Clark's a solid rotation guy for the Ravens. Tanzel Smart, I expect to kind of break out this year. He was hurt last year, so I still think that was a solid pick. There's Woods. He went 191 overall. And, Jordan Evans plays for the Bengals. It's about it. Muhammad there, not in the Saints anymore. He plays for the Colts. Not a bad player, rotation player. Round seven. And I mentioned Chris Carson was really the only one there. My Vikings made 4 picks and didn't really get any of those there. At one point, it looked like Coley was going to be good. It looked like Elijah Lee was going to be solid, but he's kind of moved around on teams. Odenigbo's on a practice squad, so 4 picks, kind of missed on all of them, but it is the 7th round. So, yeah, really not much to choose from here besides Chris Carson, but Chris Carson, Rochelle's pretty solid for the Chargers there, obviously. But Carson it's not like he won this round because there's no one else. Obviously, Chris Carson is a legit running back. There's Chad Kelly, but I think Chad Kelly can be a heck of a quarterback. He just needs to figure it out off the field. So that's pretty much it for round 7 there. So there you have it. If you disagree with me, anybody that you think I forgot to mention or should have mentioned here, let me know your guys' thoughts. Let me know your best player from each round. Maybe a player that'll start, because it's still it's still maybe too soon for 2017. So maybe, let me know a player that we think we'll be talking about as the best player in that round that we aren't now in a few years. So, a lot to talk about here with these types of videos. We're going to go 2016 next and keep going on. Let me know your guys' thoughts on these types of videos. I enjoy making them. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks to everyone who does subscribe. If you don't, daily sports videos, a lot of NFL content here. Can't wait for the season. We cover it fully in season. So please subscribe if you haven't quite yet. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.